Hello, Melissa Rhiannon here, and today I would like to talk to you about something that I've been thinking about for about 12 days. It's something that happened on Twitter, and I thought that it was very interesting and also shocking and concerning. So what happened is a someone who was born in another country, came over here, became very successful in business, had put the words of the Star Spangled Banner on their Twitter account in verse by verse, and people's comments ranged from not knowing even where those words came from to accusing that person of being a drug addict to accusing them of all kinds of things, being crazy, needing a straitjacket, losing their mind. And it was pretty shocking to me because there were so many people that it seemed like did not even know what the words, where those words had come from. And in fact, he was quoting the words from our national anthem for the U.S. national anthem. And so that was what was concerning to me, is that people apparently did not even recognize the words to the anthem that is, for the country that they live in. And so I decided that today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the Star Spangled Banner, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, how the poem got made, and then also how the music was set to it, and why the person was inspired to make this poem and then set it to music. And because I write poetry myself, I'm very inspired by a person's backstory. And since this is such an important topic, I feel, in America right now, and around the world, for people to know why we have this, why this is important, why it's so important to, be able to stand during the national anthem, and equally important, be able to kneel. So I want to talk about that because I feel like we're losing sight of what America means, and I want to bring that back as my perspective on it. So thank you for watching, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, here is the backstory on why the poem was written. During the defense of Fort McHenry on September 14, 1814, a 35-year-old lawyer and amateur poet, Francis Scott Key, had after witnessing the bombardment of Fort McHenry by British ships of the Royal Navy in Baltimore Harbor during the Battle of Baltimore during the War of 1812. On September 3rd, which was 11 days earlier, following the burning of Washington and the raid on Alexandria, Francis Scott Key and John Stuart Skinner had set sail from Baltimore aboard the ship HMS Minden, flying a flag of truce on a mission approved by President James Madison. Their objective was to secure an exchange of prisoners, one of whom was William Benes, the elderly and popular town physician of Upper Marlboro, and a friend of Key's who had been captured right out of his home. So Benes was accused of aiding the arrest of British soldiers, and so President Madison had sent Keyes and Skinner to go do negotiate a prisoner exchange in order to save several of these prisoners that had been captured. So Keyes had a whole bunch of letters written by British soldiers praising the treatment, wounded British soldiers praising the treatment of the Americans, of their treatment by the Americans, and requesting that they, be allowed to have the prisoner exchange. So he had letters in his satchel where that he was to present during this exchange. Because Key and Skinner had heard details of the plans for the attack on Baltimore, they were actually held captive themselves until after the battle. The Fort Covington was the city's last line of defense. First aboard the HMS Surprise and later back on the HMS Minden, after the bombardment, certain British gunboats attempted to slip past the fort and effect a landing in a cove west of it, but they were turned away by fire from nearby Fort Covington, the city's last line of defense. During this rainy night, on September 14, Key witnessed the bombardment and observed that the fort's smaller storm flag continued to fly, but once the shell and Congreve rocket barrage had stopped, he would not know how the battle had turned out until dawn the next day. So we have to keep in mind that this man had gone to do a prisoner exchange under a flag of truce, had been taken captive himself, and had the battle gone the other way, where the next morning it was a British flag over Fort McHenry, he and his partner, Skinner, would have both had their lives ended as traitors of the British Crown had the American flag not been flying the next morning. So this was not just important for him to get other prisoners out. He was then a prisoner himself, and his life was literally on the line while he was waiting for this long night to end. The next day, Key wrote a poem on the back of one of the letters he had kept in the packet. Okay, so we know generally most Americans grow up, they have heard the first few lines sung in the national anthem. But there's a lot more to the poem than this. So I'm going to read the whole thing. It'll be the first time I'm reading it out loud to an audience. But also I want you to keep in mind that this poem had just been written by a man who the night before he was only 35 years old. He had gone to try to save other people and then had his life for the last 11 days been in the balance. He wrote this poem after a night of terror, thinking that his life would probably end the next morning. So I want you to keep that in mind, keep that feeling in mind while you hear the words that he wrote. Oh, say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly gleaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? On the shore dimly seen through the mist of the deep, where the foe's haughty host and dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze o'er the towering steep as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses. They didn't know if it was a British flag or an American flag until the wind picked up. Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected from shines in the stream. 'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And where is that band who so vauntily swore that the havoc of war and the battle confusion, a home and a country, should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footstep pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight, or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, thus be it ever, when freemen shall stand between their loved homes and the war dissolution. Best with victory and peace may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then the conquer we must, when our cause is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you for listening.